Hello everybody, Mike, aka The Magica13, here with episode 31 of the Out of This World series. As you will recall, last time I was accidentally killing Maxim and Ethan because of air toxicity, and I left it at that. Well, my solution was kind of anticlimactic. I just loaded the quick save. I'm sorry that I made you wait to see that, because it wasn't really that eventful, but it seemed like a good ending point, so I went with it. Yes, this time I'm a little more careful with the electric charge use. I don't leave the Kethane miner running well into the night, and so we make it through the night with plenty of electric charge left, fill up our tanks, and then we are pretty much ready to go from Minmus all the way back to Kerbin. Should be a pretty straightforward transfer, and there seem to be transfers every couple hours or so. I think we left a 30-minute margin on that alarm. You can see we also have Eve and Tylo alarms. I believe I mentioned those last time. I plan on going to Eve pretty soon when that window comes up. Assuming that we get tons of science from this mission, which I can assure you we will be getting quite a bit of science. So now we are just going through our pre-flight checklist, which, I should probably come up with an actual pre-flight checklist, but basically we're switching everything into orbital mode instead of landing mode, so we don't care about the lights, and the solar panels can be retracted away, and the ladders. We don't care about the camera that faces down, and we just basically need to be able to see our periapsis, our apoapsis, all that stuff. But we are off with our... Where's our thrust weight ratio listed? It's got to be listed somewhere. I'm not seeing it anywhere. Darn. Our thrust weight ratio it's gotta be like 100, basically, right now. With that quick little burn, with the little tiny bit of fuel we used, we are already up. We go for circularization. A quick, I want to say it was like 20 meters per second. Quick, like, second-long burn, essentially. We did that with just partial thrust, because otherwise we would have likely gone by. And then we get in a nice, not quite equatorial, but a nice orbit. So after some time, after that alarm goes, we set up a maneuver. You'll notice this is negative roughly 1 kilometer per second in the, this is retrograde. I'm actually on the wrong side of Minmus when the transfer window comes up, so we will flip around and then do a gravity assist with Laythe to get up to a Kerbin encounter. Otherwise, it was going to take, honestly, it was going to take 2, almost 3 kilometers per second to get up to Kerbin from Minmus. Using Laythe, we were able to cut that down to about 1 kilometer per second, but you can see the game is just absolutely freaking out for some reason. And I think at this point in time, I'm not even thrusting. Yeah, the engine thrust is currently all the way off. The SOIs are just blinking, and we have lost that encounter that we definitely had a minute ago. So I think I did some time warping. I eventually got up to a Laythe encounter. It did in fact happen, even though the game wasn't quite aware of it. Managed to fix that with a maneuver node just after we exit Laythe. Should be it's a 400 meter per second burn. You can notice that number was increasing for whatever reason. This return is just very, very full of bugs, and so far they've been relatively mild. You'll see some fun later that occurs with tons of bugs. So we are theoretically outside of Laythe, but we just keep switching back and forth. You can tell the G meter and the nav ball just keep switching. Our orbit is continuously changing. At this rate, it's possible we might just escape, because our orbit changes just ever so slightly. You can see when it's when it's blue again, it doesn't line up at all with the predicted path, and it's frankly really aggravating. This is kind of similar to the issue I had when we were going to Pole. We had a very similar issue with it just switching back and forth, but it didn't take this long to sort out, and I'm keeping it at low time warp. In fact, I'm keeping it at no time warp. This is all one-time speed, and it's just continuously messing up, and that 400 meter per second burn is now 425 meters per second. It was still increasing, and unfortunately I lost it, but I did manage to get it again, do that burn, and we get pretty close. Yeah, we got a periapsis of randomly increasing despite the fact that we're not thrusting. So time warping seems to fix it, kind of. It fixes it in place as long as we're warping, but if we stop warping, it stops doing that. Well, it stops being fixed when we stop warping. So let's just stay in warp as long as we can. We still have an encounter, and we can just adjust this once we get into the sphere of influence. But we are on the way back home. We've got a little under half of our fuel left, because we had to spend 1,500 at least meters per second to get here, when we should have only had to spend a kilometer per second. So that was really annoying. Yeah, guess what? The encounter keeps increasing. We're up to a minute now, so time warp. The alarm goes. We're a minute away again. A minute and a half, in fact. No matter what I seem to be doing, the encounter keeps eluding me for whatever reason. I'm not sure where these phantom forces are coming from. I don't think it's from a part on the ship. It could be, but nothing that I remember is like clipped. So I think it might just be an issue with Alternis. So I keep deleting this node, kind of hoping that it won't drop my time warp, or that it'll at least recalculate properly because it wasn't earlier. But the encounter just keeps sliding away from me, essentially. And at this point, it's, I think, a couple minutes away. Yeah, you can see it's still recalculating. It's 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes. Yeah, this random acceleration would be really helpful if I could use it somehow. But I point in the retrograde direction, just trying to essentially burn towards Kerbin, hoping that will get me an encounter that actually works. If I can just slide into the sphere of influence, maybe all these issues will go away, but it does not appear to be that way. So I quick save and quick load, I believe. Yeah, quick save and quick load, hoping that maybe fixes it. There we go. Those lines are connected, which is nice, I suppose. It's probably because we're not focused on Kerbin anymore. And the alarm doesn't appear to be increasing. It's 10 minutes now. We should have already been in the sphere of influence, but we're 10 minutes away now. I just try to adjust this, bring it closer, except I forgot that I should have focused view on Kerbin, because none of this makes any sense to me. So we have a Kerbin encounter in about 10 minutes, and then a BOP encounter, and then we have a periapsis around Kerbin. Sphere of influence change. Come on, please work. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on. Yes, we have a proper sphere of influence change. No bugs this time. Perhaps a quick save, quick load is all that we needed. There was a period of time where I was very worried that we were never going to be able to re-enter Kerbin's sphere of influence. So now it's just a matter of making some course corrections to bring our periapsis down into the atmosphere so that we can do an aerobraking, because we might be able to capture on just our engines, but I don't want to rely on that. We have Kerbin's atmosphere, thankfully, so we might as well go for it. So it's like a 24 meter per second burn to drop it down to about 30 kilometers. and then we start the aero braking. Well, actually, no, we are going to have an encounter with Bop first. It's a pretty far encounter, so it pretty much means nothing because Bop has such a tiny gravity, and we're so far away that it won't really affect our orbit. But I know for a fact that I have continuously forgotten to get any science high over Bop. And we are doing a Jool mission where we visit all of the everything around Jool. So Bop is around Kerbin, which is around Jool, so by definition, Bop is around Jool. So, might as well finish the mission with some Bop science. I think we might have actually gotten some Kerbin science. If not, we will once we re-enter the atmosphere and get the barometric pressure data, because we didn't get any over Laythe, so we might as well get some from Kerbin. So EVA report, high over Bop, that's 8 science. That's 8 science we wouldn't have had before, so just get everything else, mystery goo, the materials bay, all of that stuff, and Bob Kerman dies. But he's not dead. We are actually still controlling him, and the ship is not very far away. I didn't see it at the time, but I'm about to target it, and then I realize it's like 100 meters away from me. Yeah, Bob Kerman, according to the little message there, died of G-force damage, but I am in fact still controlling him, and he somehow had weird things happen to him when he tried to get into the ship. Yeah, I really don't know what happened, and I'm pretty sure the ship was lit before, like in the sunlight, and now it's not. So I don't know if the ship / Bob Kerman teleported somewhere. I'm not even sure if we're still in the sphere of influence of Bop. I don't think we are anymore. I think we're actually just in Kerbin's SOI. But that was definitely weird. Yeah, it looks like we're just in Kerbin's sphere of influence now. We're quite a ways away from Bop. But our periapsis is the same, so let's just quick save and just make sure that that doesn't happen again. So we go in for our aero braking down with a 30-kilometer periapsis. We already have flames at 36 kilometers. We're dropping at nearly 500 meters per second or so. And we've already had an explosion. I can tell you right now, this is not going to be a successful aero braking. It will be a successful aero explosion thing. And there goes the command pod. We are following the root part, which is the science module, as it explodes continuously in the atmosphere of Kerbin. A very failed mission at that. And of course I'm going to load the quick save, but that is not without its own issues, as you will see in a moment. Our orbit velocity is 0 meters per second. That implies that we are not moving, and our trajectory implies that as well. We are headed straight down at Kerbin. For some reason. I have absolutely no idea why this happened, but we seem to have lost all of our velocity. And maybe that has to do with the fact that the Bob Kerman was killed by random G-force damage. I don't know. Let's try loading the quick save again, hoping our velocity is actually saved in there. Let's definitely not quick save first, because then it definitely won't exist. But yeah, that issue appears to persist in the persistence, which is troublesome. We might be able to fix this should we have to. We can point east, I want to say. If we point east, we should be able to figure something out. But you'll notice our G-force there is infinity, and we are definitely getting some errors in the log. You can kind of see the orbit tracker thing over there is kind of messed up too. But the G-force damage, or the G-force meter, seems to have leveled out to 0. We are able to go to the Space Center. Let's do that. the issue still persists there. You can tell I did a little bit of cutting there, just went straight to the tracking station. The issue is still existing in the tracking station, but hopefully going to the Space Center will correct some of these issues. Yeah, no more errors in the log, so we still are headed straight down, but maybe if we load the quick save again, wait through this super long loading time. I accidentally held the Alt key, so that opened up, but no errors listed in the log, and our orbital velocity is actually reasonable. So we raise our periapsis up to about 42 kilometers, a rather mild aerobraking, in fact, too mild. So I fire up the engine to ensure that we get captured. Once that the alarm goes away, there we go. Then we are for sure captured in Kerbin's sphere of influence. We can make continual aerobraking passes. I do another high aerobrake at 42 kilometers. Still not quite enough, so I throw the engines on too, because why not? Having the liquid fuel in there is kind of just a waste. It means that our parachutes will have more work to do, better chance of us failing. We still have 1 kilometer per second of delta V, which honestly, we don't need it for landing, but we managed to bring ourselves down into the atmosphere and get an almost Kerbal Space Center aligned trajectory. We might be able to land there if our ship doesn't lose control, but the good thing about this is it's spreading the heating kind of evenly around the ship, and as we kind of rotate, that will that'll sort of help, but it doesn't help quite enough. We lose the command pod, and then everything else. And I'm not sure if anything explodes. I don't think so. We just kind of go like this for a while. That's not really going to work, so let's try loading the quick save and trying this once again. So we get down to just about where the needle's going to hit the heavier part of the atmosphere. Make sure to point directly retrograde, because last time I got stuck pointed sideways, but unfortunately I'm losing control. I'll try firing up the engine to regain control. Kind of is working. We're still a little high. There's, yeah, definitely a high angle of attack, but we might be able to do it as long as we don't explode and lose the command pod again. Now we have no control, because all the control is in the command pod, but the command pod doesn't have any parachutes either. Honestly, it wouldn't be so bad if these separated and remained near each other, because if this had control, I could release it. Well, I could have released the parachutes. They are now flinging themselves down into the atmosphere, but yes, if both parts had parachutes and control, it honestly wouldn't be too bad. So, we try again, this time firing the engines to maintain control and lose velocity at the same time, trying not to get caught too much into the heating effect of just basically trying to drop our velocity down. We're down to 1,500 meters per second. That's a pretty safe velocity to be at. It looks like we've lost the reentry heating. Only 250 meters per second of fuel left. I'm going to try to save that until a later point in time, but it looks like we're good now. We're down to 1,200 meters per second, dropping more. The ship is turning. Oh, no, stop turning. And there goes the command pod, and the engines are still firing. In fact, we're speeding up now, dropping very quickly, re-entry heating again. This isn't going to work. Let's try this again. This time I've already done the burning, but we turn and everything falls apart. Try again. This time we're still doing the burning, down to 1 kilometer per second. We've got just a little bit of fuel left for the landing. We're definitely going to land in the water, and the ship turns again, and the command pod falls off once again. Yeah, the joint between the science module and the adapter is very, very weak. I kind of wish I had strutted that. So I'm going to try just pointing head first now. We'll try that for at least this attempt, but once again, command pod falls off. If I can get it head first, perhaps it'll be a little more stable. It'll just push the command pod into the ship instead of sideways, but I can never seem to turn around without having issues. Once again, falls off. And there it goes. And once more. Basically, this happens a lot. No matter what I do, the command pod seems to fall off. And as we watch the command pod continuously be disconnected from the rest of the ship, I'd like to take this time to apologize for not having more videos out lately. I've been very busy. I've been traveling a lot lately, ever since summer, since school ended. And I'm moving in like a week, a little over a week, so I'm going to be quite busy with that, so I likely won't have a whole lot of videos coming up. I may have to go back to a Friday-only system, but at the very least, I should be able to make Fridays. I'm going to try to still make Wednesdays, and once 0.24 comes out, things are going to get changed up again, because the series likely won't continue into 0.24. I will be starting another series, probably not with Alternis. It's got too many bugs. I'm going to take out most of the mods that aren't really like core mods, and just go for... Oh yeah, we had a game crash at one point, which was extremely frustrating. But I'm gonna try to do a series where there's no quick saving, no quick loading, all that. Because what's really bugged me about this series is that I constantly am quick loading. But we do eventually get a system working, a system of how to land without destroying everything. We touch down in the water. Now I need to get this command pod down because I want to get some extra science. But unfortunately, it gets destroyed when it hits the water. Man, if we would have landed on the land, this would not have been an issue at all. And that is me and my frustration shaking the camera around. So we go once again. I think it takes a couple more tries. We eventually get it. This time I'm just going to try landing it on the side. So there we go. We have an explosion, but the command pod is still intact, so I'm going to keep it. Despite the fact that we lost a couple parts, we are otherwise okay. So, yeah. Bob and Tomfred in the command pod, Maxim and Ethan in the science module. And that actually means we'll have two ships to recover. We'll recover the command pod first. We get 60 science for a return from the surface of Minmus. And then recovering the Jool for all-in-one, we get a grand total of 7,788.1 science for a total of 8,122 in our bank, in addition to the fact that we actually unlocked a couple tech nodes prior to this. I think we unlocked 3 of them for a total of like 600 or 700 science at least. So overall, this was over 8,000 science in a single mission. So that got us quite a bit. So this is what our node looks like before we spend it, and this is what it looks like afterwards. I am quite excited by this. And then I show you a final thing here, and that is all of the tech nodes we are currently unlocking, and after this we are going to Eve. So thank you all for watching. I will see you all next time.